Alright, a very warm welcome back everyone. Today I want to talk about another beat, and we are going to do this differently than usual. We are going to start with the loudness. So in this case you see that we have an integrated loudness of somewhat in the region of -18 LUFS, and we have a true peak of -3 decibels, which means that this song is already quite a bit loud for a mix. And you are going to see this or hear this when I'm playing this back, because you probably want to have some sort of break in some parts of the song. And you're going to get the break, but close to the end, okay? So I'm going to start with the drum loop here, with the verse, or with this verse folder, and then I'm going to bring in the other drums, and then we are starting all over again with the whole arrangement. So let's start. And you almost immediately get vibes of some sort of 80s character. If I'm now bringing in the shake and the sub kick, we have even more thickness in the low end. And once we are getting this fill in, we're going to start all over again. And we hear also that we have this bass loop here, which is pretty characteristic first for the song, but also for 80s music, because you see that you have, or you hear that you have this really thick bass, almost a sawtooth wave, and this is basically playing throughout the whole song. And then it gets even thicker when we are talking about this chorus and verse section later on. We also hear that we have a pad here, and this pad is basically just playing chords, but since it is not as aggressive as bass, it fits very well in here. And also you hear that we have melody down here, which is in this case listed as keys and keys double, but the keys double is actually some sort of second voice to it. If I'm just soloing this, you can probably hear what I mean. So first, like the first keys is this melody, and the second one is this melody. And you can hear that the doubled part is basically 1 octave higher, but also does not play the exact same notes, but as I mentioned, a second melody. And at the same time, we also have this arpeggio here, which is a little bit different, because for the first 2 bars you hear that you have very high notes, which is this E5 and F5, and afterwards you have these low notes, which you cannot actually hear in the arrangement. But this is not a very big problem, because this accent of the very high notes and arpeggio with these very high notes is already well enough for the arrangement to give some sort of change in it. So now the whole stuff repeats a couple of times. I'm going to skip this, starting with here, because we here have the sub bass and also another synth bass, which is playing in conjunction with the bass loop. So if I'm soloing the bass section now, we have this, which is pretty thick already. And we're going to talk about how I mix this in just a few seconds. And afterwards, the whole stuff repeats again, but as I mentioned, we have some sort of break going on close to the end, which is why I'm skipping to bar 53 now, and you can hear what happens now. So this whole squashed arrangement now gets opened a little bit, with the drums not playing, everything else stopping, only the pads playing, and we have drums which are brought in again, and then we are getting into the outro, which is faded, I think, at bar 61 or something. So just imagine that we now have like this fader going down again. Probably something like this. So now back to the mixing console. We don't have a lot to talk about, but some sort of stuff is already happening. So first thing, we have the shaker here, which is again mixed with low pass filter. Let me quickly skip back to the start. You saw that we have low end going on here, which is not what I want on the recording, so I cut it out. And as shaker is a instrument which usually has or should have more side image information, we boost the side image here a bit. For the sub kick, we basically use a compressor, in this case multiband. And you see that basically these two bands, so essentially this band here, 150 hertz, is compressed more than the sub band here, which is only, so this is factor 3.4 and this is 2.9. And you also see that we have a lower threshold here, which means that this compressor will kick in much sooner than this one would. Apart from that, we have some other equalizing here. So we have a prominent frequency here, which I decided to boost, then get rid of all the high-end information and also lower this this low-end information a bit so that it does not interfere with the drums and everything else that is playing this low. Also, this sub kick is used for the sidechaining functionality here, which is made use of quite massively in this arrangement, just because we have so much going on in the low end and we need to take care of this because otherwise it would interfere with everything. And this is just the sub kick that is used for this purpose, so I do not have to use the whole drum loop. And we have the drums in general, which are compressed a little bit. So in this case, we have a higher threshold so that the compression does not occur that massively, but also we have some quite high ratios, in this case 2:3. But this also allows to make the drums a little bit thicker by compressing them and then bringing them up in the arrangement again with the loud stuff. And now we are talking about the bass, which is where all of the side chaining happens. So for the bass loop, first we have the lowering of frequency band 2, which is just due to not interfering with the drums and everything. And then we have the multiband compressor, which is used in side chaining mode, especially for these two bands here. So the first one and the second one, which makes use of the side chaining functionality and is then compressing the whole stuff based on the sub kick trigger signal. For the sub bass, we do the same or somewhat similar stuff. The first thing is a very radical cut of all of this low information. I have to skip a little bit ahead for that to work. Maybe like here. Yeah, now you see that we have very much low information here, and I don't want this information to clutter all my mix. That is why I'm cutting this out. And we have a compressor again, which is not used in sidechaining mode, but rather, as you can see, this bass here is basically not completely static, but it's moving a bit, and I don't want this bass to move that frequently, so I'm deciding to compress it. And for the other synthwave stuff here, the only thing that happens is the basic low cut. And then we have on the group, on the bass group, we have another compressor which is used with the side-chained signal from the kick, and then compressing all of this subgroup again. So this is basically the very heavy side chaining you can see here, because if you look at the reduction, we have almost 9 decibels of gain reduction just using the kick signal, which obviously makes room for all of this drum stuff to happen, but at the same time also makes the bass pop out after the drums have hit. And then for the pad, a little bit more happens. We have again the cut here, and we have some boosting of the high frequencies, because you can see that the high frequencies are very prominent, or more prominent here. So it makes sense to to boost them, but in this case it's not only the side frequencies, but the high frequencies in general. And for the arpeggio, which is happening here, we only have a basic cut, and that's it. The brick wall limiter here was basically just used because in some parts of this key setup, we had a very high loudness. So this not because it was clipping, but because we had issues with the stuff itself, and therefore we have this brick wall limiter here. And that's basically it.